I am Gokce Dagdeviren. I'm joining you from the Netherlands today. Oh, we have another participant, great, from the Netherlands. And I am working as the MYP Coordinator at United World College Maastricht. I don't know if you've heard the United World Colleges around the world. This one is in Maastricht. It's in the south of the Netherlands. And I've been here for more than 10 years now. And before that, I've also been an MYP coordinator, also a DP coordinator back in Istanbul, where I'm from. And I've worked in both national and international schools. So I'm familiar with national systems as well, and the challenges of national systems as well. Currently, I have another role at my school. I'm also doing the CIS accreditation, and together with the IB accreditation, which is coming up both for a diploma program and MYP program. So, you know, coordinating all three is challenging, but also it gives me a great opportunity to learn every day. And I need to read a lot of, you know, booklets or documentation every day. But it makes me aware of the things that are going on, the latest trends in the world about education, and you know, regarding the requirements for certain standards to be, you know, to meet the needs of the learners of today, basically. I also take on different roles in the IB. I am a school visitor, I'm a workshop leader, an examiner, I'm a field representative. So I do quite a lot in the field, and I mostly lead IB education, like more teaching and learning kind of workshops rather than specific workshops. I also do specific workshops in languages and in TOK, which are both my areas. But today we're going to be talking about interdisciplinary teaching and learning. And in our agenda, we're going to start by discussing how we learn best, why there is a need for interdisciplinary teaching and learning, because in the past, in the early days of education, this wasn't a trend. Everybody was actually teaching on their own, in their own disciplines, protecting their own territory, and that was the norm. But things are changing today, and as you know, together with online teaching and learning, the emphasis couldn't even be more, because now students are at home, you know, most of them are at home, and they have knowledge, information easily accessible to them via internet. And we seek for ways to find the reasons for facilitators to be there. Why are facilitators there? Why are teachers there? Why are we needed? The reason why we are needed is that we are actually in control of designing the curriculum still. Although knowledge is there, it's just one part of students' learning journey. There are more to it, such as their understandings, their skills. So our role is to design the best possible teaching and learning experience for them. And interdisciplinary teaching and learning is one of them. And then finally, we're going to look at how we can make our designing better by reflecting. Miss Mina, you are here too today. Hello, welcome. Pooja, you're here too.
Yes. Hi, Gokce. Sorry, I was just speaking without realizing my mic was on mute.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's just that there was a glitch in joining. That's why I wanted to check whether everyone could hear me. Okay. So
yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. So I would like first to know what you already know about interdisciplinary teaching and learning, and what you would like to know in this session. So if you could just type it in the chat, then I'll be able to have a look at what type of expectations you have and what you already know, so that we can gear our session towards it. Shall I give you 2 to 3 minutes to type in chat, and then I'll be able to view them from there? Yeah, there is a chat icon at the bottom. Yes, hi.
I've just said hi.
Yes.
So
Yes.
maybe over there you can put
Yeah,
your
yeah, there
message.
I can type.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought in that presentation, if I have to type, then I don't know.
Yeah.
In fact, can I even talk to you,
Of
Gonch?
course.
Because
Yes, yes, of
so
course.
I was there yesterday,
Yes.
and especially I joined today to ask you a couple of questions. One
Yeah.
was for PYP. Like yesterday, you did mention that any
Yeah.
one subject, any one specialist subject, you can integrate during one unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, only
Yes.
one is required, right? But and yesterday we had some other teachers who were from different schools, and what they were doing is they were integrating two specialists per unit, only two. Whereas in our school, at the moment, earlier it was not like that, but at the moment we try to integrate all specialists for all the units. But yes, we are going to soon change. It was only like first term,
Hmm.
but second term onwards we want to. So what is the IB requirement
Hmm. Well,
in
for
PYP?
yeah,
Hmm.
for PYP, because it is all the units are transdisciplinary anyway. PYP is exceeding the requirements in terms of interdisciplinary teaching and learning, because inevitably you are teaching in an interdisciplinary way, because you are joining all those different for example, with the life skills subject, you are joining more subjects than MYP or DP. So there is a natural integration in PYP. But if you want to also have a look at your curriculum right from the start and join and invite other subjects, then that's better, of course. But in terms of requirement, I don't think there is a requirement for PYP to identify how many subjects, how many specialist subjects PYP should include, because you are already actually doing a transdisciplinary unit, which means that you are already joining many different subjects together to make it a coherent, a meaningful unit for them.
Yeah, yeah. So English, maths, and all
Yeah.
those, what you mean by transdisciplinary is those subjects, right?
Yes, yes,
Study. But the specialist subjects such as second language, third
yeah,
language, or
yeah,
dance, drama, music,
yeah,
visual art.
yeah,
Now, if we integrate for all units, then it becomes like sometimes forced integration. It doesn't
ah,
become very naturally.
yeah,
But if there are requirements, like this is what our understanding, that two per unit and two per teacher. Like as in visual art teacher should be attending grade one unit with integration at least twice, or
mhm,
once. That I wanted to check whether once or
mhm,
twice.
mhm. Well, I'm more familiar with MYP and DP, but I
MYP,
can
yeah.
but I can check it for you. As far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned, I
Hmm.
um, I really don't think that in PYP that requirement is in place. It's ideal, obviously, that you also invite in the other specialist subjects,
Hmm.
but there shouldn't be a requirement because it's already exceeding the requirements. Um, there is, however, an emphasis on authentic connection. So if you feel as teachers, as experts in the field, that
Hmm.
the connection is forced, then you shouldn't go for it in the first place, because we want that link to be authentic so that the experience is meaningful to the students. But I will check whether that is a requirement to bring in other specialists in PYP or not,
Yeah, yeah.
and then
If you
let
can
you
check,
know. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. If you can check at that
Yes.
and let me know only that part,
Yes.
because that is little ambiguous when we go in the
Mm,
subject specific guides and all.
mhm.
Little bit like so. It's
Yeah.
this is our understanding as a school and all. The
Yeah.
two subjects and two units, two subjects per unit and two grades per teacher
Right.
minimum. That's what we have understood. So
For-
matrix we
yeah,
prepare.
but yes, but that is even too
But
much.
I want to check. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
if
But
you
but
can.
Yeah, but I will definitely check it for you. It sounds like it's too much, like 2 specialist subjects per unit. That means, I mean, how many units do you have in a year? 5 or 6? 6. So
Units.
6, that means you will need to, join with 2 specialists per unit. I mean, it's, I don't know
So if
whether,
you can just tell me that,
yeah.
I've shared my email ID with you. So
Yes,
that
yes,
is my specific concern. Otherwise, I've really attended
yeah,
yesterday and it was very meaningful.
yeah, I will
So
definitely
only
let you
for
know.
that reason, yeah, only for
Yeah.
that reason I was waiting here and I joined.
Yes,
So, do you
thank you.
mind if I leave now?
No, it's
I've,
okay, Mina, because it's going to be the same content. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. And I have given my email ID, so if you can
Yes,
help me with that in the
yes,
chat, I put.
yes,
So only that query, if you can help me, it would be
yes.
great.
I will let you know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so
Bye.
Jesseline, you put down interdisciplinary is a way of teaching in which content knowledge from various subjects is involved in the learning of a concept. Yes, that's exactly it. And it is to make sure that students, as I mentioned before, students' experience is meaningful. Because, when I was a student, obviously the things that we were taught, we only taught them in isolation. And probably that's more of the audience's experience here. Everything was in isolation because every subject was treated as a specific, distinct subject. Well, obviously, it has its own, knowledge and understanding and skills that only belong to that group. However, uh, the skills that we use in life now, especially for our students nowadays, is a combined skills. So students will need to use the knowledge and skills from many different disciplines to make sense of the world. And that's that's the aim of interdisciplinary teaching and learning. I'll continue sharing my screen. That was what I wanted to tie it in with. Why do we need interdisciplinary teaching and learning then? Why can't we teach our own subjects? And sometimes this is a worry among teachers that they want to, just like, for example, Mina's question, if something is not meaningful, if something does not have an authentic connection, then they don't feel a need to combine with another subject to teach their students, because inevitably we think that we sometimes tend to avoid the bigger picture. That's a teacher tendency, I think, because we are trained in that subject, because we are experts in that subject, we think, so to speak, the world revolves around our subject. But when you look at students' experience, it's a complete experience. It should be a coherent experience. What I give to my students in terms of, let's say, English knowledge, they need to be able to combine it with other subject knowledge so that they make sense of the world. So that is actually the trend that the world is going to as well. Put in simple terms, then we can agree that interdisciplinary teaching and learning is bringing together 2 or more disciplines so that the students' learning is more meaningful and relevant. Now, in your school experience, the issues that I've talked about, I am curious about finding out more about your school context. Who organizes interdisciplinary units at your school? And how much time do you use for collaborative planning? And how do you assess and report your ID interdisciplinary units? We don't need to have a breakout room, actually, because we have 3 participants now. So we can actually discuss this together. When you look at your school context, who organizes it? Are you happy with the organization of it? Or what could be done to improve it? What are the strengths of your school while organizing interdisciplinary teaching and learning? And at the end, how do you assess and report those? Are parents involved? Is the school community aware of these units? Can they see it in their report cards? And is it challenging to find the time to plan this, interdisciplinary construct in your school? If I can just open the discussion for everyone, you can just, raise your hands and just basically jump in to respond. Hello? Did I lose you, or are you still there?
No, ma'am, we are still there.
Okay. You are just shy. You're just shy. Okay.
Exactly. Our school is just, we are a small group. Right now, we are a new school.
Yeah.
And so we have a limited, a very limited area. So we don't have as such ID units, but together all teachers are working together to achieve the agenda.
Okay. So
Explicit units are not there.
Oh, okay. So you are trying to just design the units. You're just starting to design the units. Yeah. Okay. Well, some schools find it once you start, designing your units, people find it challenging to even create time to come together to combine their units, let alone designing their own units, because now with a PYP, MYP, it's quite a challenge to be designing your units the way the requirements ask you to do. And finding time to sit together with another colleague and then go through all the key concepts, the big idea, the message that you want to give, the things that you want to teach. It's a challenging process, but because now we know that that's the best learning possible, then most schools are aware of this now and trying to put it, embed it in their schedules, that each teacher, for example, has a collaborative planning time in their timetable to sit together with another colleague. But even then, in the first trial, you might not get it 100% because this is a work in progress. Every year, I realize, for example, at my school, that every year, if we find the collaborative time, then our units get better. So in our school, we have collaborative time, but we have weekly meetings that rotate in a month. So 1 week of the month, it is, put aside as collaborative planning time, and interdisciplinary can be done during that time. However, the next week, for example, there are some administrative issues. So even at my school, where we implement MYP and DP, we find it quite challenging to find the time to sit together to look at our interdisciplinary units. So that's a common worry among schools. Is there anyone who would like to mention anything about assessment or reporting, or you're not at that stage yet? Maybe Jasleen, you're not at that stage, I can already see. But Aparna, what about your school?
Hi, good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi.
So it's like I have recently joined Genesis Global, and I am learning now. I'm in a learning stage.
Yeah.
Yes. So now I'll be learning because I am under my training process.
Okay.
Yes. But I have seen the work they do, the collaborative work where these all planners are done by the team together.
Yeah.
Yes.
And generally, when we decide on a unit, just like in any other unit, we actually first look at the end result, the culminating activities, the summative tasks, so to speak, and then we come backwards from it. So assessment and reporting is at the exit, obviously, but that is the first thing we actually need to decide. What do we want these students to achieve at the end of this interdisciplinary teaching. So we come backwards from it. That's why assessment and reporting is quite important. So
Okay.
I would recommend you to start with that. And in the next slide, I will actually be talking about the 6 steps in designing an interdisciplinary unit.
Yes. No, I was there yesterday. Yesterday's session, I was there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes. I wanted to join it again because I wanted to know. So.
Okay, great. Great, Aparna. Thank you. Okay, so in yesterday's session, I emphasized that it's extremely important that you start designing your interdisciplinary unit by a brainstorming session, which might take, I don't know, 1 or 2 collaborative sessions with your colleagues, because that is a crucial step. What real world issue are we trying to address? What product are students going to create? I specifically chose the word product because at the end of an interdisciplinary unit, especially at the beginning, if you are a new school that is trying to actually find their way through interdisciplinary units, I would recommend you to choose a product at the end. A product could be a presentation. A product could be a project that's done together. But if you can already identify what you want your students to come up with, then that's a clear target for the students. And what is the need? Just like in the previous slide, what is the need for this interdisciplinary unit? What real world issue are we trying to address? Because we're not going to come together and spend hours on something that's not worthy of investigating. So what real world issue? We have enough issues around the world today to tackle. So these will be the issues that we need to be looking at. It just can't be something from your discipline that is going to limit the students' understanding to knowledge only. We need more than that. We need application, we need skills. So when we bring together 2 subjects, at least 2 or more, then we want it to be worthy of investigating and ideally coming up with a solution. That's what I mean by product, to a real world issue. So the brainstorming session is important in that sense. And the second step is identifying the purpose. What is the purpose of integration? There are 3 entry points. You can share the same concepts. When you design your own subject units, you have certain key concepts and related concepts. When your coordinator or when your supervisor, your leader at your school looks at the whole curriculum, looks at different units, they should be able to see a pattern. They should be able to see, okay, here, music has this key concept and sciences also has the same key concept. Can we do something here? Of course, it's not going to be the coordinator telling you, ideally. I know that there are some schools who also do it that way, and that's perfectly fine, because sometimes we need those interdisciplinary units, and your coordinator should tell you that, those 2, 3 subjects could come together. They could advise you on that. However, obviously, the best way is for the subjects, the distinct subjects, to already see the whole curriculum, the big picture, and say, oh, okay, maybe I can connect with, this subject. The second entry point could be global contexts. If you are sharing the same global context, identities and relationships, how many units do you have with identities and relationships? Maybe one could touch on a good authentic connection. Why not? So then you approach that colleague of yours, or your coordinator sees this overview and says, oh, okay, 3 subjects are sharing the global context during this time, because it has to be concurrent. It has to be at the same time, ideally. There are some schools who can't meet that concurrency, and they want to align as much as they can, but sometimes one starts in September, the other continues in October. That's also possible if there are no other opportunities. The third entry point is content. Am I doing something in my subject that requires the knowledge and understanding of another subject? Sometimes we do that. Sometimes we invite, colleagues to our sessions. For example, in language and literature, I remember a few years back, I was doing, we were doing a short story book, Out of Bounds, about apartheid in South Africa. And for example, we had the INS department coming and joining in one of our sessions to explain. That wasn't an interdisciplinary unit. That was just borrowing their expertise, which is still acceptable, which is still the initial phase of an interdisciplinary unit. So we actually invited them to talk about apartheid and to talk about the political era briefly. We even invited, we were lucky to have some South African colleagues who were around, who lived through apartheid, or who were, who were there just as it was ending. So we were lucky to invite them, and our students were able to actually ask some questions. We asked them to prepare some questions beforehand, and they asked their questions, and that was like an interview kind of session, which changed the perspective of the students completely, because then there was this real world connection. There was this authentic audience, and they were able to ask their questions that they were curious about as they were reading their stories, because in their stories, it was just like another story. Whereas when they compared what was happening in the story with the real life stories of our colleagues, or with what was happening during that era from their INS teachers, then it became of a more real, more coherent experience for them. And we hope that it will remain with them, that experience will remain with them for the rest of their lives. So these entry points could be used. Your coordinator could actually, ask you to, advise you to join another subject, or you can see the whole curriculum, whatever software you're using, or even if you're not using a software. I remember back at my school in Turkey, we used to do this in one big collaborative session, where it was really like every subject had their own stands where they presented their curriculum for the whole year. We didn't have Manage back then, or other softwares. We were just presenting our curriculum. Everybody was just, talking about what they would be teaching in each year level. And the others were taking notes and saying, oh, I'm doing the same thing. So it really worked. Sometimes I think it worked much, much better in the past than now, with all these systems in place, because sometimes you can skip, as you're looking at a computer screen, sometimes you can skip those details. Whereas with the human connection, when your colleague is presenting their curriculum, you can actually, it's so real that you can actually, join them and then have a more extended discussion. Okay, so after you decide what entry point you're going to take, you're going to use, then you decide on your statement of inquiry together with the other subject or subjects. If you choose 3 subjects, your statement of inquiry should be the same. Here, your content might be different. Maybe the global context will be the same. The key and related concepts could be different. Music can bring their own key and related concepts. PHE can bring their own key and related concepts, or maybe they use the same. That is possible. With global contexts, there should be one, so that they should be using one common global context. With content, obviously, it's going to be different, but they will eventually, all of these entry points will eventually end with a statement of inquiry that is common. The next step is after you decide on these 3 steps together with the other subjects that are involved, then everybody goes to their corners, so to speak, just like a boxing tournament. Everybody goes to their corners and then prepares their subject-specific content, their understandings, their skills. They prepare their activity, they start teaching it. It might, last for, 4 periods of teaching hours. Generally, we decide on that at the beginning of the interdisciplinary unit as well. And we say, okay, how many hours do you need in your own subject to teach this knowledge, concept, understanding, skills to your students? And we decide on a certain number. It does not have to be the same number. One can say, well, I need 5 periods of teaching. The other can say, well, 3 hours is enough for me. That's also okay. Not everything can be or should be equal in an interdisciplinary unit. So it gives the other subject then in the 2 hours the opportunity to reinforce the skills that were used. So it's not like those 2 hours are lost. So every subject in their own subject time, they do the same thing. They teach their subject. And they implement their formative activities. And sometimes some subjects want to use that as an opportunity to also do some mini summative tasks. Because remember, at the end, the aim is to have an interdisciplinary summative task. So it's going to be a common one. The common interdisciplinary task will be decided together with the other subjects, and the criteria will be evaluating, synthesizing, and reflecting, and we will all be giving a grade for all these 3 criteria. But here in step 5, this is the subject's own territory. Whatever grade they give, it will be part of the interdisciplinary unit, but belonging to the subject itself. So many formative tasks, and if I want to use it as an opportunity, maybe a mini summative task. And that will probably be criterion A, evaluating, and especially the first strand, because underneath these 3 criteria, there are strands. And in each year of the program, students should be exposed to these 3 criteria and the strands that are underneath those 3 criteria. So as I assess my own subjects' objectives, I can do that in A, evaluating, and if I'm not mistaken, in the first strand. So I can give my students a grade from their performance in my subject, but I can only mark it in A. I can't mark them in B because there's no synthesis yet and there's no reflecting yet. That will come in the summative task, in the last step. But when I am in this step, when I'm doing formative and mini summative tasks, that can only be criterion A, evaluating. Is this clear? I want to pause and then ask whether you have questions here.
Ma'am, when we are talking about disciplinary formative tasks, so at that point of time, what do we, basically, I'm not getting the point over here. When we are saying that, let us say 2 subjects are there who are sharing the same content. So would there be a combined task or 2 different tasks working on same objectives?
Yes, both. The 5th step is different tasks. The 6th step is the common task. And the ultimate aim, actually, the interdisciplinary unit cannot be an interdisciplinary unit without this summative combined task. So you are working towards this big summative task that involves 2 or more subjects. However, the steps to lead to that is you first teaching those skills and knowledge in your subject, because without your subject's knowledge, student cannot actually achieve the last step. They can't understand what to do. You first need to teach them what requires them to do in your subject, and imagine that your other colleague is going to be doing the same thing in their subjects. So students will have an understanding, hopefully, and say, oh, okay, in physics, I'm learning this. And in, let's say, it could also be from the same subject group. So for example, physics and chemistry can come together, and that is a perfectly, well-designed interdisciplinary unit. It can be, but physics can also come together with music, for example. And if I teach the knowledge in physics, if the music teacher teaches the knowledge in music, then our culminating task is the last step, the interdisciplinary summative task. So we are working towards actually achieving this summative task. But before, our students need knowledge, understanding, and skills in our subjects. Is that clear, Jasleen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, and that is basically how you construct an interdisciplinary summative task. Obviously, this is very short. And this, interdisciplinary teaching and learning requires, I don't know what, a 3-day workshop or something. This is just in 1 hour. This is just like a crash course. And obviously, for each step, we need to work, for at least an hour to understand what is required in each step. That's why, of course, you have questions and you might be confused about these steps. But in a nutshell, these are the steps of an interdisciplinary summative task. And there are some actually resources that you can, I've put down some resources here where you can actually look into and read and see some examples after the session. But even before that, I want to show you some examples in the IBs, in MYPs mostly, because in DP you will find that in DP, when we come to DP, it becomes multidisciplinary, where every subject is actually protecting their territory, whereas in MYP we are more, it is blurred, that the territories are blurred, whereas in PYP it's all transdisciplinary, where we no longer have boundaries for subjects, they're all combined. But in MYP we have a lot of sources, and I wanted to show you some examples of some MYP interdisciplinary unit plans. I don't know whether you've seen this before or not. This is a great page for you to take a look at these different units. For example, when we go to science and design, this gives us, actually, it explains step by step how we can do, how we can plan, design an interdisciplinary unit. There are different templates for unit planning, but it's all, and you can also design your own template. IB is okay with it. But we write the names of the teachers, the subject groups, unit title, which MYP year, which PYP year, the duration of the unit, purpose of integration. So the 3 entry points that I have mentioned before. So it talks about the real world issue, disciplinary contributions in the sciences. Students will learn about the ways in which energy moves through space and matter, and they will apply those ideas to understand how a solar oven functions. Then they will collect data that can be used to adapt the design to enhance efficiency. In design, how the design cycle is applied to make changes to designs in order to solve problems. So as you can see, every subject, after their brainstorming session, they know exactly what they want students to understand and learn. So the synthesis is also explained here. The key concepts, the global context is written here. There are some factual, conceptual, debatable questions. They could be from the distinctive subjects. They could be separate or they could be combined. And then they write the summative task. Students will develop a scientifically annotated design brief for a solar oven. As an extension, students can build, test, and evaluate their design using scientific investigation. That's what I meant when I said, for example, product at the beginning. So if we already in the brainstorming session decide on the product, then we know what the students are going to achieve, and that they are also clear on where what they're working towards. And we have the criteria for interdisciplinary, evaluating, synthesizing, reflecting. So it explains step by step all the activities and how this unit will actually help students achieve the culminating task, which was the ultimate aim. They've also put down the approaches to learning skills here, and they've included the different activities here, which are related to the ATL cluster. So it's not just saying, oh, we are already doing communication with the summative task, so let's put down communication. No, we really need to identify what we are doing to reinforce students' communication skills. How are we teaching them? We can't really suppose that students know how to communicate in this context. So with this activity, for example, mantle of the expert, we are teaching students the communication skills. That's one subject doing this in one lesson, for example. Imagine all the other subjects teaching skills in an organized way, such as this one. That's how we also promote approaches to learning skills. As you can see, this is a very comprehensive unit plan. Then the disciplinary grounding, that was a question previously. Science does this, design does this. Their related concepts are different, as you can see, and the content is pure knowledge. This is the traditional education that we see currently also in many parts of the world. However, we also emphasize the importance of knowledge in certain specific subjects. We can't really have an interdisciplinary unit without the content of the different subjects. What is energy? What is form and what is function? What are the different forms of energy? Obviously, students need to know that, but we need to make sure that they also use this and show us their understanding in the summative task in the interdisciplinary. So they also explain how the activities are going to be organized. It's going to be launched in a full cohort assembly. You see, sometimes we also, at my school, we also introduce the interdisciplinary unit by having a common assembly to, for example, let's say if it's MYP 4s, we say all MYP 4s, join the link. We're going to be explaining about your next interdisciplinary unit. So all the subjects at the same time join so that we can explain it in one go to the students. Then it's a joint session. Then we leave it for another, let's say 4 or 5 lessons. Everybody is in their subjects. And then we have another joint session just to check in, just to organize the students and organize the project so that we know that we are on the same page with everyone and students can ask their questions. So that's a good way. I would recommend that you hold some common sessions before you embark on the interdisciplinary unit and you plan it in your agenda. So this is very detailed. What is energy? The activities are all. So this is what I meant with step 5, the formative tasks and mini summative tasks. See, there are tasks here. There are activities here, as you can see, and the teaching strategies, experiences are laid out, formative assessments. For example, science is looking at criterion B and criterion C in their own subject criteria. This is not the interdisciplinary criteria. This is just their own criteria. They're using it for their subject. And they put the resources and they put interdisciplinary resources as well. They put down their reflections, obviously. And you can see that this is very well thought of, but you can imagine how much time those teachers spend on actually designing this unit. So it's not an easy task, but once you plan this, once you create time to do this with your colleague, all you need to do is to review and revise this every year to make it better. This will stay with you, stay in your planning for a very long time with just a few touches every year to make it better, With the feedback that you receive from your students, you can make it better, or your teachers. Maybe you will find out that one of the tasks, that the interdisciplinary task is not working. So you can adapt it, you can change it. But we have to start with planning, and this shows the planning of it. As you can see, there are others. I just want to show you one, but I'm not going to be showing you the others. If you have access to MyIB, this is in the teacher support material, interdisciplinary teaching and learning, in the MYP page. So have a look, and this could be, this is shared with all the IB schools. So this could be a good collaborative session with all teachers. And I wanted to also show you the unit planning templates. There are 2 templates that are given here as a suggestion. You can also come up with your own template, but this actually gives us the components, the required components of an interdisciplinary unit. This is just one template, and the other one is similar. Pretty much all the terminology from this one is used with, with this one as well, because the requirements are the same. But basically, these steps that you see here, the steps that you will use, regardless of you referring to these resources or not, these are the steps that you need to take. It could be that, just like Ms. Jasleen pointed out, you might be at a very beginning stage, and this might be too overwhelming for you when you look at that unit plan. So you can start simple by looking at these 6 steps and try to work it out from there. If you are already in the developing stage, not at the beginner stage, but a developing stage, then maybe you can look at a few examples. Obviously, the example that I showed you is very comprehensive. I don't want it to intimidate you. It is just one good example of how an interdisciplinary unit should look like at the end. I had this little activity at the end for you, but I'm going to, and the idea was that I would ask you to, have a look at this picture. These are the Mexican citizens who are trying to pass the border and go to America. This was a simple activity, simple task where you can actually do with your students as well. You show them a picture and then you ask what concepts, what questions they might have about this. And you can also do this with your teachers. They will throw in some questions from their own understanding, from their own subjects maybe. And if you jot down those questions, you will see the commonalities in your questioning in this picture, because this brings together all in one, under one umbrella, and you will see that there are some concepts there that you can actually use to teach your students, that even this picture that's just taken from Google Images could actually be used to spark a good discussion, a simple activity over an interdisciplinary task. But it's 8:30 now, so I will thank you for joining my session, and I'll stop sharing my screen just to see whether you have any final questions.
Ma'am, could you please share that slide where you have mentioned the sources?
Yes, I will share the whole PowerPoint. I think the summit is going to be sharing the whole presentation with you. You want to see the picture or the resources page? Yes.
Resources page, ma'am.
Resource, yeah. I will contact the organizers to make sure that the whole presentation is shared with you. Is that okay?
All right, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining my session. And I hope to, meet you in another conference, virtually for now. It looks like virtually, but maybe in person in the future. Thank you very much.